B'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we begin Perek Sheni, the second Perek in the Hilchos Naarah Betulah, in the laws of the virgin maiden. And here we go from the first Perek we spoke about specifically the Knas. Here we talk about the other payments that come along with the Maisa Oinis and Mefata, with the act of seduction or that of coerced relations. So Rambam begins Halacha Alf, where he categorizes the payments of the Oinis and Mefata. Says the Rambam, Chamishim Kesef Shel Knas. These 50 silver coins of the penalty, that's specifically the monetary payment for the pleasure of the cohabitation itself that the man had with the woman. But additionally, the seducer has to give embarrassment and deficiency, because when he cohabits with her, he creates a deficiency and she loses the value, going downgraded from a Betulah, from a virgin, to a Betulah, as Rambam explained Halacha Vav. And there's embarrassment because of what he committed to her. More than just the penalty that was set in the Torah of 50 silver coins. Now, in addition, when he raped the girl, he has to add on, they has to give the pain. As the Rambam explains, because a woman cohabits consensually with her desire, so there's no pain. The body provides a way that it's not as a painful act if there's desire on her part. But if he rapes her, if he violates her, then there's pain. And that's why the Torah specifies by the woman that was raped, because he afflicted her, for that he has to add on also the payment of the tsar. Now, halacha base, says Rambam, comes out. So a seducer pays three things: kanas, that penalty that the Torah tells us by both them, ubaishes, and the embarrassment of pugam and the deficiency, va'onis, and if he rapes, arba, that's four, is kanas, is the 50 silver coins of the penalty. Again, that's just for the hana of the dmei of the shchiva. Uvaishes, this embarrassment is degrading what he did to her, but tsar, and there's the pain over here by onis. Ufagam, and also the deficiency that she lost her value as being a besula. Now, so Rambam explains halacha again. He says, "Kanas shava bakal." So what we spoke about in the previous paragraph, the penalty that the Torah points, that's equal by every girl. Echad abal bas kain gadol, whether he had relations with the daughter of the high priest, v'echad abal bas gera mamzer, whether it was the daughter of a convert or of an illegitimate person, doesn't make a difference. Kanas chamisha kasef, her penalty will always be, he has to pay 50 silver coins, which is a general rule. Anything that is a set amount in the Torah is equal no matter who the person is. Avla boishes. But the shame, v'apukam, the deficiency, v'atzar, and the pain, einim sham l'kol, that's not equal by every single person. That's relative, that's subjective, utzrich and shuma, and that has to be evaluated by the person. As Rambam continues, halacha dal, it says, how do you make this evaluation? So habayish, regarding embarrassment, hakolafi hamavayish, everything goes according to the one who's embarrassing, v'hamizbayish, and the one who gets embarrassed. As Rambam explains, shein adem, it's not comparable. Mavayish Naarah chashuva, if someone disgraces a distinguished young woman, from a distinguished family, has an outstanding ancestry, who is not a naira, an older girl who is more mature. No, she's a little girl that he embarrassed. Aniya, the pauper, vizuya, disgraced and degraded. So you can't compare the girl who's getting disgraced. And so to the you can't compare Mizbayish Ma'ad M'chashav Agal. You can't compare the one who's doing the embarrassing, the man. Can't compare someone who's degraded from a distinguished and mature person, the Mizbayish, who, if she gets disgraced, from one of the repulsive people, from the lower level strata of people, where a disgraceful person that embarrasses, it's a greater shame. A distinguished person, someone that's somewhere higher on the status, it's not as degrading, and therefore again it's going to depend on the one who's embarrassing and the one who's getting embarrassed, meaning the status of the man and the status of the woman. Now halacha hey, ulefiza, based on this, roin hadayanin malosa malasa. So the judges, they look at his status and her status. V'shamin, and they evaluate kama mamin rola via un mishpachta litin. How much money would have been fit for the father and for her family to have given? That this thing would never have happened from this man. They would have paid that out and said, what a disgrace to the family. They would have paid all this money. That, how much they would have given. And that's how much she has to pay for the disgrace of this woman and her family. Now, pagam, the deficiency, according to her beauty. Meaning, Roina, so we look at this girl, as if she was, we're talking about monetary value. How can we monetize this to compensate the girl because of the deficiency that now she's not a virgin anymore? We look at her as if she was a maidservant being sold in the market. How much is she worth having already had cohabitation? How much is she in this pristine virgin state? As the Rambam explains, there is monetary value. A person would want to buy a maidservant that's a virgin to give to his servant. That he wants the pleasure and the good of the servant because he's a trustworthy servant. He wants to reward him. And we see, well, how much does that value get downgraded by being a Betulah? Visham, and that's how much he has to compensate this Oinus Mafata has to compensate the girl. Now, Tsar, which is unique to the Oinus, the pain is Lafi Katnus, is according to how young she is, Uvinya Gufa, into the structure of her body, her physiology, Ulafi Shana Gufa, and according to how old he is, and according to his body, meaning there's an injury over here by a rape. And Oimdin, we evaluate Kama of Litin. How much would the father have given money? Star Zoom is that his daughter should not have pain, have been injured from this man. How much money would he have paid? V'yitin, and that's how much money the rapist has to give to the victim. Halacha Zayin. Now, Hamafata, if a man seduces a girl, so Noisin, so he has to give to her father, the embarrassment and the deficiency right away, meaning even if he's going to end up marrying the woman. In contrast, but he doesn't give the penalty, unless if he doesn't actually marry her. Because like it says the pasuk in Shmais, and we mentioned this in the previous parak, if the father refuses to give his daughter to this man who seduced his daughter, so then then he takes the money of the knas because of what this man did to his daughter. But the inference is, if he does give his daughter to the man, then he doesn't collect the knas. But again, that's only regarding the knas. The Beishas Begam is immediately to the father. Now, but regarding the rapist, he has to give all the 4 that he's obligated, and he has to marry her. Therefore, and that's what's different than we said regarding that of Mefata, where the knas is only if he doesn't marry her. Here, even if he does marry, he has to give it. So ultimately, since this guy gives everything, all the payments right up front, and he has to marry her, when she wants to get divorced or she gets widowed from him, ein lo klum. She doesn't get anything, let's say, for ksuba, because the monetary value of what a woman usually gets from ksuba when she leaves the marriage, she really got with the monetary payment of the knas, like we see in contrast to the mefata, where she doesn't get nifra, she gets ksuba. Here she really got the knas money, which is really to compensate for the mayar psulis, for the virginity that she lost, and therefore she doesn't get anything when she leaves the marriage. Halacha ches. Let's say two men cohabited with her. Echad kedarka, echad shalei kedarka. One did it in the natural vaginal way, and one did it shalei kedarka in the anal, in the unnatural way. So zeh shebala shalei kedarka, the man that had relations with her in the unnatural way. So imhu rishon, if he's the first one to ever had relations with her, chayiv b'beishas ubegam, he's liable for the embarrassment and the deficiency, because even unnatural relations also downgrades it a little bit. Now, there's no liability for the knas, because that's only if it's done in the natural way, as the Rambam said in the previous parak in Halacha Ches. Now, so that's if he's the first one. Vimu achren, if he's the last one, well, he's only liable for the embarrassment, obviously, where there's a disgrace to the family if this man had relations with her, but he's not liable for pagam, because she kvar nifkama, because she really was deficient in her virginity, which she really lost with the first man who already had relations with her in the natural way. That's regarding the one who had bia shaloi kedarka. Now, the man who had relations with her vaginally in the regular way, is bein rishon bein achrin, whether he's the first or the last one, chayiv b'knas, he's liable for the penalty, ubeshar dram, and all the other things that have these halachas, because the other person never took away the psulim, he did it unnaturally. So whether this one who did a kedarka is first or last, still he's going to be liable for the knas. Now, but Rambam does point out, ein beishes to bagam shal bashal nibla klal. You can't compare the embarrassment and the deficiency of a girl who never had bia at all, where that's the ultimate, to the embarrassment and the begam of the woman who already had relations anally. So, although yes, there's still basulim over here, and if this man had relations in the regular way, whether he's first or even last, he'll be chayv for the knas and he'll be chayv for the beishan and begam, because he did take away her virginity. But ultimately, she wasn't pristine in the sense a man already had relations with her in an unnatural way, so it's not going to be the same amount, although you will have all those liabilities. Now, Halachas Rambam continues regarding if someone is in general exempt from these payments. Because as the Rambam says, Kavar Hardanu, he says, already explained in the previous parak in Al-Chates and Yud, Habanish Ilam Kanas, there are certain girls that don't get the biblical penalty if they were seduced or raped. And there's 10 of them. Habegeres, if she's already over 12 and a half, Vama'enes, or if she refused her marriage that she had rabbinically as a minor, Vamagereshes, or if she was divorced, Va'ilnis, or if she's someone that doesn't have the days of Nairis, Va'shaito, mentally deranged, Va'chareshes, or deaf mute, Va'giyeris, or she converted, Va'shvuya, if she was redeemed from captivity, Va'meshachreres, and she was freed as a maidservant. Again, these are over the age of 3. Betulah Shemra, or she already had a bad reputation for doing these types of things when she was younger. Those 10 women, they don't have, as we explained in the previous parak, the knas of being raped or seduced. Now, Shahaban is Yeshan Knas, but all of the girls, they do get this payment of the knas. Now, halacha yud. Kol bas shesh knas, so the Rambam goes further on this. It says, any girl that has the biblical knas, if she was Einis Mafuta, yesh la b'isha bekam. She also has the shame from that story, and she also has the deficiency. So, and if she was raped, yesh la tzad, then she has another one, that of the pain. But if she doesn't have the knas, so then she doesn't get the embarrassment, doesn't get the deficiency im nispatasa if she was seduced, and also if she was raped. Except for 4 of them, if she was already begeris, or if she was a me'enis, or she was mentally deranged, or a deaf mute, they do get the beishat megam. The reason why that is because a begeris is still a virgin. So when she's raped, she still gets embarrassed and she still gets deficient. So to me'enes, if she had chuppah and she didn't yet have bia, in contrast if she was already married and she had bia, then she wouldn't have pagam. But these women, since they're still basulam, although they don't get knas, as we explained the technical reasons in the previous parak, but they would still have the baishas and the begam. Says the Ram halacha yadav ketzad household. So he says, so einis is a begeres if someone rapes an older girl, she's already an adult for 6 months. Or if she was a minor, but she already had a marriage as a minor, although now she's not married. Although they don't have knas, but like we said in the previous halacha, they do get the payment for the embarrassment, for the being deficient, where, as we explained, the reason for that is tsar and the pain, because anyone who's raped has pain. Now, if he rapes shaitoi chareshes, the mentally deranged or the deaf mute woman, they're misham tsar belvat. There, although he said that that's an exception to the rule, but that's specifically regarding the pain they're going to get. But you don't pay for the beisha the begam because, first of all, they don't have embarrassment because they don't have intelligence, and they don't have a monetary value to be sold in the marketplace, so they don't have the begam. But the pain they are getting, so they get compensated with the tsar. But if someone seduces the women we described, well then then he's going to be totally exempt, because the general rule is, as we said in the previous parak, in halacha aleph, is that a woman that's seduced doesn't have pain. So therefore, they don't have embarrassment, and begam, like we explained, if they're seduced, there's nothing. And begeres me'enes, even though they have beishes, begam, and tsar, but if they're seduced, they're not going to get anything because they're being meichel, they're consenting. And a begeres is not in her father's domain, so she has the right to be meichel. Me'enes, she's orphan, so she also now. But a Naarah that got seduced, even though there's no pain, but there is this knas and beishes begam, because since she's in her father's domain and everything belongs to him, she cannot be meichel a payment that goes to him. Halacha yud beis. Now the Ram explains a case of what's called moed b'knas. What happens if he admits on his own? Says the Ram, a person never pays a penalty of a payment where it's on his own admission. Only if it was with the testimony of witnesses, because the Torah tells us regarding the knas in Shmos Chavbeis, Asher Shin Elokim Yisham Shnayim, only that which the court prosecutes him, but if he prosecutes himself, he's actually not liable. Therefore, if someone says I raped or I seduced the daughter of that man, in Mishal Knas, he doesn't pay for the Knas. Now, Mishal Beish Begam does pay, but he does pay for the embarrassment and for the deficiency with his own admission, because that's monetary, that's not penalty, and whoever admits by monetary law does pay. And so too, if the girl, if she petitions, she claims to collect from the man in the court, and she tells him, you raped or you seduced me. And he says, it says, this never happened, you're making this up, which is what's called halacha kaifer bakol, which is biblically exempt from an oath. But we obligate him to take a rabbinic oath, which the word hes is like seducing, like we try to seduce him to make, to actually admit because of the oath. And the reason why we make him take a rabbinic shvuah is because we have a presumption the person will not make a claim unless there's something that's really owed to them. Now, but a rabbinic oath is not as severe as a biblical oath. So halacha is, Harizah nishbah shvuah says, like I said, he has to take this rabbinic oath. Because, what's the point? Because if he admits, there's something here for him to admit, which would be the embarrassment, the begam, and the pain based on his own admission. So based on the fear of taking a false oath, maybe he's going to admit, because in contrast to the penalty, like we said, for that itself, we wouldn't make a shvuah, because what's the point? Even if we admit, it wouldn't help because he wouldn't have to pay based on his own admission. Halacha Yud Gimel. Amrullah, let's say she tells him, Anasto Isi, you raped me, and you have to pay for me also for the pain that I went through. And he says, like Betisi, says, yes, we cohabited, I seduced you, you consented, I didn't rape you, I didn't force you. So here, which we said the halacha is different regarding a biblical oath, here let's take a biblical oath regarding the monetary value of the injury, of the pain that she went through, because this is what's called moide b'miktzas hatayna. Here he's admitting, as Rambam is going to explain. So he has to pay for the embarrassment and deficiency. He admitted to part of the claim, like Rambam explained in the appropriate place in the first paragraph. So here where he's admitting to part of it, he's admitting to having had relation with her, but he's claiming seduced, and that he's only obligated in two of them and not on the third one. So therefore he has to take a biblical oath on that third one of the tsar, which according to the Ravid, he does not have to take an oath, because Ravid interestingly says there's no claimant over here, because the payment doesn't go to her, it goes to our father. So it's like she's saying to him, you owe my father $100, and he's saying, no, I only owe him 50, where he's going to be exempt, because that's what's called Meshav Ved. There's no one claiming over here, because the father's not claiming anything. And if the father does claim, how does the father know that she was raped and not consented? Whereas the Kesef Mishnah explains the Rambam that no, the daughter is considered the primary litigant, even though the payment goes to the father, but it's only through her, so therefore she's the one who takes him to court, and yes, it's her claim, and therefore it would be, as the Rambam says, a halacha made mixed satayim. Now the Rambam halacha continues regarding, so whom does the payments go to? Says Rambam, the three payments that there is in seduction, and the four payments that there is by rape, they go to the father, because all the profits that a girl has as she's up until being, when she's still even in the stage of a Naarah, which is between 12 and 12 and a half, all goes to the father, which you learn from Pasuk Bamidbar, B'Nereh Beisavia, which all the benefit that the girl has goes to her father. Now, if she doesn't have a father when she was raped, and then it goes to herself. Now that's specifically on rape, because if she was seduced, as we said before, she's not going to get anything, because since it goes to herself and she did it consensually, she was meichel on those payments. Halacha Tezvav. Mefuta ayanusa, a woman was seduced or raped, she didn't take him to court until she already became a begeris, or until she really got married to someone else. Now, when a girl becomes a begeris or she gets married, she's not in her father's domain anymore. Or she didn't go take him to court until her father already died. So then then the four payments of Oinus, or the three of Mefata, then Shalah goes to her, and the fact is, although, what do you mean? Why would the three of Mefata go to her? Didn't we say if it's going to her, she was Meichel? Yeah, but since at the time of cohabitation, the three things were going to her father, because she had a father, so we don't say, anytime she's seduced, she doesn't get a knas when it's going to her. No, it depends on the moment of seduction. Was she in her own domain? Then she's Meichel. If her father was still alive then, and she was still in her father's domain, then there was no Mechila. So if he subsequently dies, which now he doesn't have rights, she does, she actually does get it. Now, let's say let's say she took him to court and she claimed what is rightfully coming to her. And after they had the court case, she became a begeris, or she got married. Then Narim Shalab, then the monetary payments go to the father, although now she's not in her father's domain, but once the court case started, it goes to the father. Now, let's say the father died after the court case, Harim Shalachim, then it goes to her brothers, Shem Yershav, which they were the inheritors of the father's rights. And the reason is, because the moment that there's the court case, the father already merited in the rights of the injuries of his daughter. Halacha Tezai. Habash and this Arsab and this Garsha. If the daughter was engaged and subsequently divorced, and we're specifically talking about that she was divorced, because if she would be engaged without being divorced, and a man had relations with her, he would be liable for the death penalty, and of course there wouldn't be a knas. So she was engaged and then divorced, and then a man cohabited with her. So knas lavadoi. So there, specifically only the knas, in contrast to the Beis Megam, that goes la'atzma, that goes to herself if she was raped, because in contrast to the Beis Megam, that actually belongs to the father, because when she's still engaged, didn't fully leave her father's domain yet. Now, obviously, if she's seduced, she wouldn't get anything because she's Michael. But the moment she was raped, then the knas goes to herself. Now, let's say she was raped or seduced when she was single, and subsequently she got engaged to someone else. Here also, even here her knas, because when she was raped, she was still single, and then the fact that she got engaged, that's not removing it. That's the difference in the previous part, which we said there the knas itself is going to go to her, because when she was engaged, that we learned that from a pasuk Ashaloya Rasa, where we explained that in Parak Aleph. Then it goes to the father. But if she's engaged, that's exactly because then it goes to her. In contrast to the Beis Bekam, would still go to the father. In this case, when she was raped when she was single, and then she became engaged, again, here even the knas, and for sure the other things are going to go to the father. And the reason is, in these two halachas, because the getting engaged does not remove her totally from her father's domain. In contrast, marriage, like by Faras Nadarim, where when she's engaged, then her father could nullify her vows. When she's married, then she's totally removed. So just getting engaged will not remove his rights from his daughter. Now, halacha Yitzayin, the Rambam rounds off this halacha by warning that this is not carte blanche. This is not what one might think about this, which there's still prohibitions of promiscuity. As the Rambam says like this, it says, I say like this. This says in the Torah, do not desecrate your daughter to have her have znus, to be promiscuous with other men. What does this mean to say? The Rambam says it's coming from the halacha we discussed here in these parakim. In other words, Shalayim of the father shouldn't say like this. He says, look, he'll come up with logic. He says, the only liability that Torah gives for a man who rapes or seduces a woman is elashit mamla'av, is that the father gets monetarily compensated. Okay, so obviously it's all about me. I'm going to rent out my daughter that's a virgin to this man. That if he wants to have relations with her, however much money I'm going to ask for, that's what I could do, and the money is rightfully mine. I'm going to let this man have relations with her for free. A person could pardon his money to whoever he wants to, and she's my money. You see, if something happens to her, it goes to me. Says the Rambam, and that's why the Torah tells us, don't desecrate your daughter. Meaning, because this, the father's right, that the Torah only made a rapist or a seducer liable for money and not for lashes. That's b'she'ir hadav mikra. That's if a situation, a circumstance happens, without the father's knowledge and consent and awareness, and the girl did not prepare herself for this type of behavior, where she was just suddenly seduced or raped. That's not something that happens usually. It's not so common. So that's where she gets rewarded a monetary payment, and that goes to the father. But if the father is going to leave his daughter that's a virgin, prepared to whichever man wants to have relations with her, he's causing the world to be filled with licentiousness. When the comes out, we're not going to know who's having relations with who and who's the paternity of children. It's going to turn out no one's going to know a father's going to get married to his daughter, a brother's going to get married to his sister. Because if she's going to get impregnated from this situation and she's going to give birth, we're not going to know who's this child is son of. And to the contrary, actually, if someone prepares his daughter for these types of behaviors, she has a halachic status as a kadesha, a harlot. And actually, the man who has relations and the woman who's having relations get lashes for not having a kadesha in the Jewish people, like the pasuk in the Rambam Gimel. And actually, in that situation, we actually don't penalize the boil, the man, because like we said, the Torah only penalized him if he rapes or if he seduces her, but here he's not seducing her, she's already pre-seduced, which the fact that she's a Kadesha causes men to want to have relations with her. As the Rambam says, this woman who prepared herself for this, whether because she wanted this or her father wanted this, again, Hariz a Kadesha. This Kadesha Echad, and this halacha of being a harlot, there's a prohibition of Torah, is bein b'psula, bein b'ula, whether she a virgin or she's not a virgin anymore. Therefore, the sages said, And this is how the Rambam ties into a different halacha, that if let's say she already had a bad name when she was a young girl regarding this inappropriate behavior, if a man seduced or raped her, she wouldn't get the biblical penalty, like we explained in the first parak in the halacha test. Because this woman's already in the presumption that she already made herself free for these types of behaviors, and therefore that's not included, like the Rambam says, in the category of the knas of Einis Mefatah. Whereas according to the Ravid, a Kadesha is only a woman that is in a distinct place of the harlots, like the pasuk in Bereshis, Ayah Kadesha ben Al Derech. It's specifically a woman not just preparing for this man, it's a woman that's like a prostitute, a harlot, a woman that goes and sells herself with these types of things. That's how the Rabbit holds. The Rambam says it's a woman that's even for this one man. It's for monetary things like selling his daughter. That already would be the Isser in the Torah, and then actually there wouldn't be any rights to the monetary payment of Bainis Mafat, and therefore you're getting it all wrong. Don't think that that's your monetary rights, because actually there's not even the monetary rights, and that's actually a prohibition in the Torah of Al Tachalas Bitcha Lahaz Naisa.